All right, and welcome back. It's been a little bit. We've not done a show. I've not done a show since I think March 30th. So I'm back, and what better way to kick it off? We are back with the six-time Gerwick.net female of the day, that kick-ass chainsaw queen, Black Dahlia. How's it going today, Dahlia?
Hi guys, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being my kickoff for the yet another rebirth of our show.
That honestly, as the Chainsaw Queen, I feel like that's just poetic justice for me to be your first guest.
Exactly. So I'm going to, I'm going to ask you some questions, some related to your career and your rehab, and just a little bit of nice, fun little getting to know you questions.
That
So
sounds
if
great.
you're ready, I'll go ahead and get started.
It's 10 at night your time, and it's like 10 in the morning my time. So I'm exhausted. I work night shift for my shoot job. So if I sound like I just woke up, it's because I did. But I am so ready to answer your questions.
I've been there. My normal day job sometimes has me up as early as 5:30. So
Yeah,
I have to partake in similar things on occasion. For those
you get it,
listening
man.
on audio, she just showed me a energy drink.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. I just drank a Ghost. Ghost Energy.
Excellent.
Unsponsored.
There you go. So drink a Ghost Energy. Just do it.
Yeah, I'm just the candy apple is the best flavor.
Ghost Energy, candy apple. Write it down, people. So first question is: did you grow up a wrestling fan? And if you did, who were some of your favorites?
No, actually, I didn't. And that might shock a lot of people when they first hear that. As a professional wrestler, you would think that I grew up watching it and that I just was a huge mark for it. I was a kid in the PJs watching it. No, I wasn't. And it's actually a really, really crazy story on how I got involved with wrestling.
Well, we've got time. Why don't you go ahead and tell it?
Honestly, I got involved in 2011, and the way I got involved was I was an actor, and this one girl I was going to college with was like, "Hey, this will look great on your resume," and it happened to be a job as a valet, and I ended up taking the job, working on a couple local indie companies, and it was just for my resume. And I knew nothing about wrestling. I mean, of course, I was aware of like The Rock and then Hulk Hogan, but I didn't
Right.
know who Vince McMahon was. I didn't know anything. I didn't know who Stone Cold Steve Austin was. All the big names, Undertaker. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know anything about you. That's how unmarkish I was. I dead ass. If it wasn't Hulk Hogan or The Rock, Batista wasn't even big at the time when I was a kid or as an adult. So before getting involved with wrestling, I didn't know anyone's names. Like they could have walked. I could have been in an elevator with Vince McMahon, and I wouldn't have done anything. Like I didn't know. And after being involved with professional wrestling as a valet, and then falling in love with professional wrestling and growing a respect for professional wrestling in the business, uh, that's when I really immersed myself into becoming a fan of professional wrestling.
How old were you at that point?
Uh, in 2011, I was 18.
Okay.
So, falling in love with wrestling, I was probably like 20 years old, 21. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start training and being a wrestler. And that's when I got involved with Funaki and Rikishi.
Yep. So that was my next question was you did get a have a nice little pedigree there with Funaki and Rikishi.
Yeah,
I was seeing Rikishi on television or hearing about him a lot these days with his boys being the talk of the wrestling world mostly these days.
yeah, so cool.
But how did you get hooked up with them?
Okay, so I am a little bit OCD and a perfectionist. So, like, when I do something, I want to do it the right way. So, before as an actor, I auditioned for the New York Film Academy, got accepted. I was doing it. I want to be the master of whatever craft I choose to do as a living. And when it was acting, that's what I was doing. So with wrestling, I did it as a side gig. I had some friends involved, and I didn't have the love and passion and respect as I do now for wrestling. Back then, it was just something I did and I liked and I respected, but I wasn't in love. So when I decided I love this, I have a passion for it, this is what I want to do for a living, what do I want to do? Become the best of the best. I want to be I want to be a true professional. I just don't want to be a mark in tights. I don't want to be some random wrestling fan in tights and going out there and being unprofessional and possibly injuring someone or not being the best of the best. So what I did was I just researched some wrestling schools, and I ended up going to Funaki's first, which was in San Antonio, Texas. The year was 2015 into 16, and I was under him for just under a year. And then when I linked up with Rikishi at WrestleMania in Dallas that year, I ended up getting a tryout to come to LA. And then when I turned under Rikishi, it was just for under a year as well, and then I was injured.
Did you grow up in that area, the Texas area, with all the training going on
No,
there?
it was so insane. I have such a crazy story. I swear I'm gonna make it a book one day just so people can read this story. You hear about legends on WWE that have like a slice of bread with toothpaste. Like you always hear the different stories of how different wrestlers struggled. I have the most bizarre, insane story on how I have struggled just to become a professional wrestler. My family, they did not approve of professional wrestling. They thought it was trash. They thought it was very trashy and beneath them. And I was basically the black sheep of the family. And they would rather me continue being anorexic and bulimic and continuing my acting and modeling career as opposed to being a professional wrestler. Like my whole entire family. I had no one to support me. I had no one that liked wrestling, let alone believed in wrestling and or believed in me. So I was basically on my own when I decided to become a professional wrestler. So it was very hard. My story is very insane. And the only person I really had by my side that was struggling and doing the same thing was Nathaniel, which is my business partner, best friend. He is literally an amazing person. Nathaniel he used to go by Nate Cross, but he goes by Evil Nate, the Killbilly. You guys can look him up as Nate Hewitt online. He went through the story as I did. And what our story is literally having one suitcase and not a single person caring and living out of a vehicle and scraping together pennies just to get a McDonald's tea because we paid for wrestling school. And instead of just being an indie superstar and living off the marks and stuff, like, and just going from town to town, just like getting hot dog and handshake, $20 bookings, Nate and I really took wrestling seriously and went and wanted to train properly and be true athletes and be true professionals. And I hope that I can write a book one day and tell people what I experienced. And I can go in detail if you want about what I did to become a
Yeah,
professional wrestler.
absolutely. But I just want to say, you must have gotten a list of my questions because literally the next question I was going to ask you is if your family supports you going into wrestling.
You can totally, literally cut me off and ask. Like, I can ramble. Like, I just woke up. I literally will stare off in the distance and ramble until the interview's over. So,
But well,
wake me
as they
up.
say,
Talk
let's
to
fucking
me.
go.
So, no, my family did not support me. No one likes wrestling in my family. No one believes in it. They are very snooty and rude when it comes to it. I was a valet for so many years, and then I was training as a professional wrestler for so many years, and not a single family member would come to one of my shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just alluded to you had some story about
Yeah.
the training, living in the car type of thing. So by all means, go ahead. It's your time. Tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Well, interrupt me and ask questions as I go. So, yeah, my story is not like most. Most people are sitting in their diapers watching wrestling and saying, "Oh, I want to be a wrestler when I grow up." And that was not me. I was the ballerina fighting every eating disorder in the world as a model and an actor. I was a dancer, and then to go from that to body slams is the most insane thing ever. But when I chose, as people would say, to give up my dream just to follow this crazy wrestling story, that it really confused people. Going from not a wrestling fan to all of a sudden I wanted to be a wrestler. People were like, "Who are you? Like, this isn't modeling. This isn't acting. I thought you wanted to win an Academy Award one day." They like people that are not wrestling fans really look down on wrestling. They call it that fake shit. They call it that trashy shit. They like I have like a lot of people in our community grew up as wrestling fans, have their families as wrestling fans, best friends sitting together eating pizza as teenagers, wrestling fans. I come from a different world where no one, I didn't even have a great aunt or a distant cousin or a best friend that liked wrestling. I had no one on my side. And
I've
if you
interviewed I've interviewed 50, like 50, over 50 people, and very few of them said their family didn't support it.
Yeah, it's sad. And it's like, it's not that I need to piggyback off someone and pay my bills and support my dream. No, it's like, do you love me? Like, this is what I want. And for everyone to turn their back on me and say that I'm throwing away my acting career and just to do something I never had any interest, like people really were harsh on me. But so that left me on my own. I had one suitcase, all my trophies from dance and cheerleading and softball, volleyball, basketball. I had a collection of them from my entire childhood, and all of it was thrown in the trash. So
Wow.
I had one suitcase, and I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it the right way. And because like a lot of people will just like play politics on the indies. A lot of wrestlers will just be like, "Hey, this is my friend," or "I'm gonna hook up with this person," and not trying to sound scandalous, but there's a lot of politics that go on, and it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna hook up with," like a lot of guys and girls do this, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna link up with this person, and they're gonna get me a push," or "Hey, I'm gonna become best friends with this person, and they're gonna give me a push." I'm like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go train at a professional school under a professional name and become a professional wrestler." It's not that hard, guys. And I told myself as an 18-year-old, I was like, I will never hook up with a wrestler. I will never date a wrestler. I will never be with anyone involved in the business, a booker, a ref. I was like, as an 18-year-old kid, I was like, I'm going to be serious about this and not date my colleagues. And I've stuck with it for the past like 11 years and pissed a lot of people off. It's pissed a lot of people off. I've had a guy corner me and say, "Hey, I'll get you into WWE. Just hook up with me." And I'm like, "No."
We
And
had
then,
the speaking out accusations a few years ago, so
yeah.
that's just proof that that kind of thing
Oh,
doesn't turn
there's a
out well.
lot. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I'm not going to be the whistleblower or anything, but I keep my personal life separate from my professional life, and that rubs people the wrong way. I've had people literally sit me down and say, "I will fly you out to Japan and I will hook you up with the biggest companies in Japan. Just, suck my dick." And I'm like, "No."
Wow.
It happens. And I've turned down so much. And I'm like, "No, I'm going to go to wrestling school." And then uh, as I went to wrestling school, I got a shoot job. I've had the same shoot job for the past 7 years, and I work night shift. So I unload freight, I lift heavy boxes. Sometimes I have to be on another position where I unload the semi trucks. So a very brutal job, 10-hour night shift. And I would go to the gym right after that, shower, and then I'd go to wrestling school and train. And then I would be lucky if I got a couple hours of sleep and I'd have to do it all over again. And when I was in LA doing this for just under a year, I was sleeping out of my vehicle.
I used to work those kind of jobs, airline, running pallet jacks, things like that.
Yeah.
And I can say of the women that I worked with, they didn't very often look like you. They look, they were, usually a little older, older women that were like, I kind of just need something to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that type of work is definitely to keep you going too, and almost like a workout itself when you don't get to go to the gym that later
That's
that
what a
day.
lot of my colleagues say. They're like, "This is a workout. How do you go to the gym after this?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a wrestler." But yeah, like when I say I have a story to tell, it's not narcissism, ego. I have a story to tell. I have my own bread and toothpaste story. I have my own freaking insane story. And a lot of people sacrifice for wrestling, but a lot of people have family to back them up. A lot of people have small town communities to back them up. A lot of people have that one best friend that will back them up. And it literally was just me and Nathaniel in a suitcase. That's it. All my trophies, like I know that sounds narcissistic, but when you have trophies from the 90s, from when you were just 2 years old doing a ballet recital, all the way up throughout high school, and then when you get into college, it's all take thrown away. It sucks. It sucks that my family threw out all that, but
Right.
it's just to have just go from having a normal life to just having a suitcase and a vehicle. It's the scariest thing ever, but I knew I was going to be a professional wrestler. I knew this was my destiny. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been an actor my whole life. I knew I was meant to do this. So it's the best of both worlds as a stunt worker, as a professional athlete. And I just like, this is what I'm meant to do. So when I talk about the story of I can inspire people, I have this story. I literally would sleep out of my vehicle in the daytime just so I could go and train and wrestle. It was hot, my air conditioning wouldn't work. I got sun poisoning to where I had to use the bathroom, and this is what people think. Like they're like, "Oh, she's big boobs with blonde, a blonde with big boobs that uh she must have it easy." It's like, guys, I've shit and pissed in a fucking cup for professional wrestling. I've
Right.
shit and pissed in a cup. I am more than what you see. Instead of sleeping with people, I shit and pissed in a cup for professional wrestling. And no one can say I didn't earn my spot.
It's not often in this industry too where you hear of somebody who has somebody they could rely on, like Nate, for
Yeah.
all the time that you've had without it being somebody that there's a spouse or a significant other type of thing.
Yeah. Nathaniel is a really good person, and he's been there from the beginning. And I remember one of the first wrestling shows because as I got scouted for this really, really mom and pop indie company, I showed up just as an actor, not understanding wrestling in this hot gym, a high school gym, I believe. And Nathaniel, you'll have to have him come on and tell his side because all the guys were in the ring prepping for the show. And then everyone just stopped and turned and looked at me as I walked in the doors. And I'm like, do I want to do this? I was like, what is this? It's hot as shit. I have sweat dripping down my freaking dress. I'm like, it's hot as hell. Where is the air conditioning? I've never been to a weirder audition ever before because you got to think I was a model, I was an actor. It's really like straightforward with that. You're in air conditioning, like a controlled environment, and then I see all these half naked men just stop and turn and look at me, and I'm like, I don't belong here. I was like, I'm going to die. But then Nathaniel has a completely different story. Like it's literally the same setup, but from what he and the guys thought when I walked in, it's pretty comical.
Once you got through training and started having matches, what was your first match? And what are your memories of it?
So all of my matches are under the school. I was put in a wheelchair at Rikishi's.
Okay, that's a good place to go because I did have that. So let me get to that. So, um, yeah. So you did. You've been going through that since I believe April of 2017.
Yeah, so
Rehabbing. That's when the injury happened. Is that correct?
yeah, that is
Um,
correct.
yep. So You
6
know,
years.
let's get into that. First of all, how did it happen?
So it's very
This is, by the way,
emotional.
I'm sorry. This, by the way, is what I found when I started like researching you to do the interview.
Yeah.
This is what I found most interesting, and all I had to go off of this was your social media posts.
Right.
So I only have that snippet that you've allowed us to know.
Right. Exactly.
Um, so by all means, the floor is
It,
yours.
thanks. It's very emotional. It's a lot. So when I say I have one of those stories that's going to inspire people, that's not me being narcissistic because I have one of those stories that's going to inspire people. When I say I thought the worst thing I would have to do for professional wrestling was to shit and piss in a cup. No. I thought the worst part I would have to do for professional wrestling was to sleep out of a vehicle with no air conditioning in the daytime in LA when it's like 90 degrees outside. No. I thought being disrespected by a lot of the community because I was just the actress, just the model, and then when I was cyberbullied and attacked and body shamed, I thought that's all I had to do to go through professional wrestling. No. I was put in a wheelchair in a match out in LA, and I am forever handicapped for professional wrestling. So when I say I have one of those stories, it doesn't stop in LA sleeping out of my vehicle, spending all my money, spending $800 on school tuition for both Nate and I. I was put in a wheelchair and couldn't walk for 3 years for professional wrestling. So when people come out and disrespect me and say, where is your matches? Where's the video footage of you going and get hot dog handshake bookings on the indies? Where you're a wrestler, so where's your matches? I was put in a wheelchair before I could play indie superstar. I was training for 2 years and then put in a wheelchair. That doesn't make me not a wrestler. That makes me okay, give up, and that was my career, or continue fighting and learn how to walk again to become a professional wrestler. I had my WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi get me in front of all the class when I was injured and limping and standing there and being held up, and he told everyone I was a professional wrestler. Nathaniel and I both, he said we never asked for any help in LA, and he remembers that. And he basically scolded the whole entire school that these two kids slept out of their vehicle, asked for nothing for almost a year for professional wrestling. So being put in a wheelchair and not being able to go and play indie superstar, it's a shot to my mental health and my ego. But to have people mock me for it when I chose not to sleep my way in the business, when I chose not to play politics and gossip and try to blackball other people because it's a game, when I chose to be the nice person in the locker room and professional, you mock me for making the ultimate sacrifice. So my injury was and is traumatic because I'm technically disabled. I choose not to get medically disabled, if that makes sense, because it will be on my record and I don't want to live off the government. I'm very young still and I want to try to become a professional wrestler. So I got out of the wheelchair, and every time I try to stand and walk, I'm in chronic pain. But I still work a 10-hour night shift, but I still go to the gym, but I still asked a doctor if I can roll around in the ring and not re-injure myself. And they said, no, you can't re-injure yourself. It's already done. I'm still
So,
fighting.
I'm sorry. So, if I'm following you
Yeah.
there, so the pain, while it's chronic and you're dealing with it constantly, it's not going to get any worse, is what you're saying?
I can't re-injure what's already been done. So in LA, Rikishi witnessed it. I was doing a match and I was thrown over the rope. And the way I landed, instead of landing on the apron, see, I suffered for so many years with a thing called plantar fasciitis.
Hmm.
And some people may know of it, some people may not. It's basically on the bottom of your foot, you have your arch. You have the two bones and your main ligament. So the main ligament is like a trampoline when your bones start going down, and that's your natural spring. Trust me, guys, I am literally I basically probably could be a foot specialist now. Would not politically terminology correct, but I've been through over 11 doctors in the past 6 years on all different forms of levels you could be at, from a chiropractor to a regular doctor to a foot specialist to a medicine sports injury doctor to a medicine foot injury doctor, sports medicine that deals with NFL people. I went up the ladder, man. So this is me dumbing it down for everyone because this is how I explain it. But your main ligament down there. So imagine burning, horrible pain building up in your feet. I've dealt with that since I was a teenager. And unfortunately, I went to a doctor as a teenager, and it was a foot specialist, and they basically said, "You're young. There's nothing that can be done." And that's not true. So I, for like 10 years almost, suffered with plantar fasciitis in both my feet without any help, medical help.
Right.
So in LA, living out of my vehicle, sleeping out of my vehicle in the daytime, getting sun poisoning because it's so hot and I can't sleep, being malnourished, doing something as bodybuilding, doing something as a physical manual labor job, and then add wrestling training on it where there's no air conditioning in the school, I was killing my body. And I was just burning the candle at both ends. So my fasciitis got really, really inflamed. And to the point where when I was thrown over the rope, instead of landing on the apron, I went all the way down to the concrete. And when I slammed my feet down, the fasciitis was, the whole muscle was so swollen, it tore.
So you weakened your foot with
Yeah.
what you were putting your body through.
Yes. I was
And then,
being a young, dumb idiot that didn't listen to my body. I was so inflamed and so much pain that when my feet slammed down on the concrete, I ripped and I tore both ligaments in the bottom of my feet. So when I popped back up, I collapsed. I couldn't support my weight. I couldn't stand. And the way Nathaniel says it, he was on the other side of the ring with Rikishi and all the other students watching. He saw me pop up and collapse, and he knew something was wrong. Then I crawled back in the ring. I was like, don't be a bitch. Don't be a pussy. I was like, you just sprained both your ankles, bitch. Get back up, Rikishi's watching.
right.
And I got back up in the ring, and I didn't quit for 2 months. I didn't quit for 2 more months with torn ligaments doing that fucking schedule because I wanted to be a professional wrestler.
Wow.
Yeah.
I broke my foot a few years ago. Nothing like what you did, but
Yeah.
I actually because I'm not an athlete. I work
Yeah.
in an office. Um, I just sort of dealt with it. I never had surgery, anything like that. At this point, it basically the side of my foot just, I don't want to say it's numb, but it feels like it's constantly asleep.
That's awful. I'm sorry, man.
So
Have you seen any updates? Have you seen any foot specialists?
yeah, and they said they could go in and so like what happened because I didn't have surgery. Basically, like the bone that was broken and it healed with like a bone stimulator.
Okay.
When that happened, like the way they explain it is new bone grew in its place. So, like at that spot of my left foot, I have more bone than the average person does.
And
So,
does it cause you pain?
no, never,
Oh,
never an
okay.
ounce of pain.
Oh, thank God. You had me. You had me
Yeah,
there, man. I was literally about to cry for you. Like, so no pain, no problems.
occasionally like a quick stabbing pain, but
Okay,
no,
okay.
nothing chronic. Like even that day that I broke it, it was nothing. Like the only reason that I did it was because I heard the bone snap.
Yeah, I
And,
heard right.
and I
I
was,
heard if you ever want to know what a ligament sounds like tearing, it sounds like pop pop.
yeah. I was actually on vacation. First day of a vacation. I was walking the sidewalk in front of the beach, and then felt down like, well, this vacation's ruined.
Oh,
But yeah, so it's kind of like it swells up, but it's because of that extra bone in there. And the
yeah.
doctor said like if this is bothering you, we can go in and we can like shave what's in there down. But you'll be non-weight bearing for months, and it's like I'm fine. I don't really need it.
Dude, that's
But
so cool that it
so
doesn't cause you pain, but it also is so cool that there's an option to take your pain away if it does start bothering you as you get older.
yeah, it's just
That's
more than anything, it's just annoying.
the inconvenience. Well, I'm
Right.
thankful that you're not in pain because, like,
Well,
whenever
thank you.
someone tells me, like, whenever I tell my foot story, it goes on tone deaf ears the majority of the time, unfortunately. But whenever someone tells me their story of their foot pain or something, it's like, you get it. It's like, yes.
Right.
Like, this guy just told me his story about having gout in both feet. And he accepts the responsibility of like he triggered it by having an alcohol problem and he accepts it, but he's in chronic pain every single day and it inflames and there's nothing that can be done with his gout. And he's like probably like a 38-year-old man. And it's like, you have to spend the rest of your life with gout. That's just awful. And the way he described his pain, it's like, you get it
Right.
because you go the best way to explain it is you go living a normal life and then all of a sudden you're in chronic pain and you're like, wow, I wasn't living, was I? You
Right.
realize how unappreciative you are of your life because we take it for granted. We really do because I lived my life and I thought I was just living it to the full potential with everything I did and that was not even an ounce of what I should have done before I was in pain. And I don't like being in chronic pain, you don't get it until you're in chronic pain. But especially when someone tells me their foot story, because it's one thing to have an elbow that gets sore when it rains. You're valid. Your elbow, when it rains, it gets tender. Imagine walking on that and putting all of your weight on that every single day just to live. And when someone tells me their foot story, it's like, yeah, I get it, man.
Yeah.
It's like a secret club. It's like a secret club that we all have on. No one gets it but us until one day, bam, your feet, your legs, what you're standing on.
It's like a silent bond, but if someone told you about like elbow pain, like you could feel the pain, but you don't know exactly what they are because you don't
Yeah,
necessarily have the elbow pain
yeah.
issue, but you have the chronic pain issue. So
I
kind
respect. Yeah, exactly. I respect people whenever they're in pain because no one deserves to be in pain. But yeah, it's like a secret foot club, and not for a foot fetish.
right.
If anything, once you injure your feet, if you ever had, like, I didn't, just for the record, I never had a foot fetish, but if I did, I sure as God wouldn't now. This is
Right.
traumatizing, guys.
Especially when going through your social media and seeing like the images of
My scars, yeah.
with the scars and things like that. I could see where someone might have a foot fetish and then look at that and be like, "Nah, I'm good."
Or maybe they still would like it. It's just once you go through a traumatic foot injury and you're disabled the rest of your life, like it's like anything to do with feet could be a trigger, could be traumatizing. Like I like scary movies, but I can't watch any movie that has anything to do with anything with the feet or legs. Like
Yeah.
I can't. It traumatizes me to the point where I might have a mental breakdown. Like it whenever I am in public because I'm still dealing with this injury. It's not going away. It's been 6 years and it's not going away. I am in chronic pain every day. When I wake up, I'm in chronic pain. So whenever I'm out in public and I see someone in a wheelchair, that messes with me so badly. It's like so insane when I see it.
I take it to the level of like I work in an office, so I have like a computer that I bring to work every day, and I carry it in like a backpack. And if I see somebody who has like a rolling bag, I'm like, or who doesn't need it and hits the handicap button to open the front door, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
You do not realize the cruelty of the world until you're handicapped.
Yeah.
Man, sharks in the fucking water.
I,
When like being young and healthy and at your best peak, you don't realize the different sharks that are bumping you. But when you're at the mercy of every stranger you come across, when you're in public, when you're grocery shopping, when you're going to the doctor's office, man, people are fucking cruel. And
it's
one of
even as
my
simple. It's even as simple as like I was never in a wheelchair like you, but I was in a scooter.
yeah,
And so like it was like waiting for the elevator, and people were like would like not only not hold the elevator, but I could see them press the button to close the door quicker.
yeah, the way you get treated, it's the most you would, and not that I need it. I don't need pity from people. If
Right.
anything,
Just a
it
little
warms.
decency.
Like yeah, and when just the cruelty, you see someone that's disabled and you just want to kick them when they're down. And I experienced that for like 6 years, and it's
Right.
like, wow, you guys are horrible people. How dare you? And then
I feel like such a little bitch because I went through that for like 4 months, and I sunk into depression that time, and then it's like
no,
you've been through so much more.
no, everyone's valid with their mental health and everyone's valid with their traumas. Like your 4 months was awful and you didn't deserve that. Just as my 6 years is awful and I don't deserve this. But I chose to fight, and I was blessed enough to slowly build a tolerance for my pain. I don't do pills. The doctor's never given me any. I had ibuprofen for like 5 days after all four surgeries. That's what they give you, is a nausea pill, a constipation pill, and because the anesthesia makes you constipated apparently, and like this fancy ibuprofen, and that's it. Like, and you're supposed to take that for 5 to 7 days after your surgery, and they don't do anything for the pain. And also you just hear about people getting addicted to pills, so I'm just like, not going down that route. So
Right.
going in constant pain every single day, it sucks. And then people being mean to you and try to kick you while you're down. I know my family, unfortunately, and different people that have been associated with me literally loved that I wasn't wrestling. I got
Mm.
text messages that said, sorry, your dreams didn't come true. I got text messages that said, maybe you're not cut out to be a wrestler.
Damn.
Yeah, I've had like a lot of weird shit.
So just switching topics to maybe something that
Yeah, ask me anything.
yeah. Was anyone of note that we would know in the wrestling school with you?
Yeah, Nate Hewitt. No, let's see. It's crazy to think that when I was on the verge of auditioning for WWE, I had like when my school would go and do shows.
I'm sorry.
Literally,
How was that come? How did that come up that you were about to audition for them? Did Rikishi set that up?
no, it wasn't spoken. It was going to be when you go through school and then when you graduate, that's when I was going to ask to be sent, and I'm like,
Okay.
"Hey, I'm trained, I'm ready." And that's basically what's implied when you sign up. So I was like, this summer I'm on audition, and it just so happened that one of the shows that my school ran, there was two girls with me, and one of them was what is her name? Sashi. What's her name on WWE now? There's her indie name, and then the green haired
Oh, Shotzi.
Sashi Black, and me, and then hey Nate, what was the other girl? Raquel
Okay.
Gonzalez. Those
Oh,
were
yep.
the other two girls with me.
I love
Sashi,
Raquel.
I think she, both girls were auditioning at that
Okay.
time, or yeah. And I was just like, going through my injury and seeing these girls, and I'm like, that's so cool, good for them. And then I just had this aha moment. I was like, oh, I was supposed to audition too.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so I apologize for digressing there. Um, yeah.
I'm
So
horrible at names, though, just so you know. I am awful at names, so Nathaniel always has to help me.
um,
But to be fair, we all have different names. We have our shoot names, we got to remember. We have our gimmick name on the indies. And then if you get blessed enough to get signed, you're thrown on another. So I have to remember all three names. If you guys don't have other gimmicks, fuck you.
and you got to remember what your social media name is because it changes from platform to platform sometimes.
It's honestly so aggravating. So I just, that's a trigger of mine, apparently. Let's move on.
Um, who would your dream match be with?
If they're still alive right now, or just people that are alive right now.
Either way.
Natalia, or Trish, or um, China. Let's see. I honestly think it would have been really, really cool to have done a segment with Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth. Like that honestly would have been my ideal dream is something involved with them. Uh it'd be insane to have wrestled China. That would have been so cool. But realistically now Natalia's goals.
So you mentioned Macho Man and Elizabeth. You mentioned China, and and they were all kind of done by the time that you got into the industry. And by your own admission, you didn't grow up a fan. So how did you find out about them? Once you started getting into it, did you start like going back and watching old tapes, or like how
Right.
did that kind of thing happen?
So as I stated before, I was an actor getting involved, so I knew nothing about wrestling. But I also, as I stated before, I am very, very OCD when it comes to things. So if you want to be the best of the best, you got to study it. So I studied the subject. I Googled ballet because that's what I was doing at the time, and Miss Elizabeth popped up, and Macho Man. And I was like, who are these insane, over the top theatric characters? I'm intrigued. They're not just wearing like uh what I used to call, I was like, they're not wearing panties and just like being rough men. They're being these eccentric, over the top characters. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. And as an actor, I just like went down the rabbit hole of all of these classic promos, and I studied Scary Sherry. I studied Miss Elizabeth. I studied the art of, I studied woman. And I just wanted to be the best of the best ballet at the time. And then I also studied like even Paul Heyman promos. That's how I got involved with wrestling. I was introduced with like Nature Boy Buddy Rogers footage, and
Right.
Macho Man footage was something I really zoned in on because it had Miss Elizabeth. And man, I wish I could have met her.
It was she was also definitely a little bit more of an anomaly in the sense of like she was more of for lack of a better term, as opposed to the women that we've seen over the last 20, 25 years. She was more of a not she definitely wasn't a heel most of her time, but she was also like a lady, like a you
Yeah.
know classy lady, the long dress, all that kind of stuff. Where you didn't really see a whole lot of that. A little bit at that time, but definitely not much once we got more into the modern era.
Yeah. I if you look at my old footage on Nate Cross on YouTube, you'll see me, because I invented the Black Dahlia gimmick. I off of obviously Elizabeth Short's murder as the Black Dahlia. I was As I invented the Black Dahlia, I became a version of Miss Elizabeth, silent, elegant, pretty, but not vocal. So I was doing like a bad guy version of her, and you'll see that in our old footage. But then I started becoming more of a Scary Sherry and more vocal and more Harley Quinn style. And just studying that footage, and then you could see me doing it as a manager, was kind of cool to see me grow as a performer. And then when I invented the Chainsaw Queen gimmick in 2016 under Rikishi, I was really excited to blossom as a wrestler to show everyone how my character has grown from just the Black Dahlia to the Chainsaw Queen, from a ballet to a wrestler.
That's great. I didn't know about that footage, so I know I'll definitely check it out, and I'll
Yeah, it's fun.
plug it for sure. Nate Cross on YouTube. Check it out, everybody.
Thanks. Just think like Macho Man Miss Elizabeth, because Nathaniel is so talented on the mic. His promo abilities are insane, and he's a one-take Nate. Like, he'll get the gist of what he's going to say in a promo, and then he'll just do it in one take. And it's like, okay. No stuttering, no slurring of words. You're completely in gimmick. Your character's on point. You got the gist of what you're going to say. Cut the promo. That's so talented of him. So you'll see him do like a Macho Man style, like in our old promos.
I definitely will check that out. So everyone check it out. So anyone who follows you on social media, as everyone should, can regularly see you, as you mentioned earlier, hitting the gym, and you're gearing up to going back into training, and hopefully one day get back in the ring. Yes. How is the progress going as we sit here talking today?
Right. So it's going good. I have more doctor's appointments later on in the year, so I'm excited about that. I'm still in chronic pain. It's not like I was injured and then now my feet hurt in the rain, like when it's cold out or something. It's not, unfortunately, not that. When I tell people I learned how to walk again, it took an entire year. It took from trying to get out of the wheelchair and stand and walk for 30 minutes, shaking and vomiting and crying, to by the end of the year, I was standing, shaking and crying for 10 hours. So that's the reality that I face. So, like learning how to walk again. Sorry, I just lost the train of thought because I'm like really thirsty right now. But when I say I learned how to walk again, it was really, really hard. So recovering from my 4th foot surgeries on both of my feet has been very hard. Has been I dare say it's been easier than the first 2 foot surgeries, but learning how to walk again this time was very traumatic because my PTSD with these pains. I remember what it was like learning how to walk again with my other surgeries, and man, here I am going through it again in 2022 at the time. I'm like, God, I never thought I would have to learn how to walk again. And here I am trying to do it again. And I have to put all my weight on one foot because then I have to go in 2 weeks for the other. And it's just such a mental fuck this time. Like it was awful. And then now here I am. Okay, I trained myself to stand and walk. I'm starting to jog. I'm starting to get used to going back to my shoot job, back from medical leave, 10-hour night shift, then going into the gym. Okay. So now I'm like, okay, let's focus on the diet. Let's try to cut some fat and gain some muscle. So that's about the stage I'm at right now. And the next step is wrestling.
So if I'm doing the math right, because you said earlier you were in the wheelchair for about 3 years.
Yes.
So you basically got out of the wheelchair right at the beginning of the pandemic when the world was changing as it was.
A, man! Fucking A! So when I say I got out of the wheelchair, it's like I couldn't even go and shop at Walmart. I couldn't even grocery shop without being on one of those electrical scooters. So I wasn't a hydroplegic. I'm not paralyzed. I'm not an amputee. I'm literally just in chronic pain, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Unless I sit my bitch ass down. But then I wake up in the morning and I'm in chronic pain. So it never goes away, even when I sit down. But it gets worse if I keep going, for the most part. So yeah, like just how do I explain it? It's just basically nerve and muscle damage with my feet. And sorry, I'm really, really tired, man. Just to get me back on track right now. God, I'm tired.
Oh yeah, I was just saying like it must have been really weird to, after all that time, finally being able to do that, and then like you said, you can't really do much because the world's in lockdown.
Yes. So basically the lineup, 2017, training under Rikishi, been there for just under a year. My dumbass stayed in LA for 2 months. I stayed and wrestled and worked and then paid my wrestling fees, slept out of my vehicle with torn ligaments. That basically the way my doctor described it to me is like a piece of celery, and then you got all the layers, and basically I keep on tearing it every single day. So I'm tearing my muscles on the bottom of my feet every day for 2 months before I'm like, I don't think these are twisted ankles. I mean,
Well,
the pain
it could
was
have been a lot worse, I
there.
guess, if you kept going.
I, yeah, so I mean, the pain was there. The It wasn't like I was like, oh, this isn't a big deal. It was awful.
Right.
But I was like, it has to get better. It has to get better, right?
You were thinking,
So
like, this is part of the dues that I have to pay because that's what everybody does.
it's like everyone does this. I have to, like, if I'm gonna make it, I gotta pay my dues the right way. I gotta be honest. I gotta be work. Like, dude, guys break bones all the time and they continue. And it's just like I was just being ridiculous because I should have went to the ER. I didn't have medical insurance at the time, and I never went. And so after 2 months of that, I finally left LA, sought out a doctor, found a doctor. It's $100 just to see him. See him. He gives me a steroid shot in the ass and says, "Oh, you have plantar fasciitis. Come back in a month to see if that shot worked." A shot of a steroid in my ass to help inflammation for your entire body, which, to be fair, he didn't know. I didn't know. It did nothing. Come back a month later, pay $100 just to talk to him for 5 minutes for him to be like, huh, that didn't work. Well, I'm going to send you to a foot specialist so they can give you steroid shots directly in the feet. I paid $100. This could have been a phone call.
Right.
Foot specialist of a specific body part, takes forever to get in. So we're already 2 months in LA, a month to see this regular doctor, a month for him to tell me the shot in my ass didn't fucking work. We're already going on like boop, 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 like 6 months injured, walking on and re-tearing my ligaments. I'm walking, working my shoot job with torn muscles, and I'm re-tearing them with every step. What the fuck? And I finally get in to see the foot specialist, and that's when I tell her my story in detail, and that's when she's like, "Baby, you didn't sprain your ankles. You're not suffering with plantar fasciitis anymore. That's gone. That muscle is gone." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You ripped your muscles. You tore your muscles in that match." And I'm like, "Okay." And that's when she explained the arch in your foot. This muscle is torn and re-tearing, and all your bones are doing is trying to spring on something that's not springable. That's your pain. And that's as dumbed down as I can get it because that's how
Right.
I can understand it. And I had no insurance, and they said I have to get an MRI to see the severity of it. I had to pay basically like $1,000 out of pocket just to go to this random MRI place. It wasn't at the hospital. I didn't have insurance to cover it to go to the hospital, so she sent me to one of these. Apparently, people can just have MRI machines and have in random buildings and charge people out of pocket to get an MRI for doctors. I swear to God, I was in the middle of a double wide house that no one lived in or anything, but it was a room set up like an office that had an MRI machine in it. And I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, what the fuck? So then I have the MRI, see her a month later, and she's like, okay, it's confirmed. Then I was put into the two hard casts, and I have photos online of these two white hard casts. And I'm basically just like in the air trying to heal my muscles. And then if you guys ever had a steroid shot in the foot, the needle is about, let me get my camera, the needle is about this long. And it goes directly into your feet. I have video footage online of it. I documented everything. And basically the steroids are directly driven over and over and over to the point where the bitch was stabbing me like 5 times, and a whole entire cortisone shot That was one foot. Then she whipped out another full needle and did the other.
Wow.
And very painful. It made me scream. Like when a doctor, and I'm not being dramatic, when a doctor says you can scream if you like. What? Like, and at least she shuts the door, has the needles ready and sterile. It's on that. I see how big they are. And she said, it's okay to scream. They always scream.
Did you?
No.
Ah, look at you.
I'm a wrestler. So I just like literally just laid back as she did it. And I was like, son of a bitch, that fucking hurts. And it's like, wee, wee, wee. Oh, let's get in here. Wee. And it's like, bitch, you're not fucking my foot. Like, come on, let's just get this done. Like, it was awful.
Right. I'm already in pain. Just do it.
It's like, dude, this fucking hurts. Like, why can't you just stick me and be done? No,
Right.
we're getting all the fucking angles, and well, she knew what she was doing, whatever. But this is the worst part of it, and I can summarize my injury after this is 2 different times I was put in the hard cast. For 8 months I was put in the hard cast, like off and on, to see if my muscles would fuse back together. They didn't. It's literally months in a cast. Take off the hard cast. Let me inject you with steroids. See if you can walk for a month, 3 weeks. Come back. Oh, it didn't work. Let's put you in the hard cast again and inject you with more steroids. I have been told by multiple doctors now that's bullshit. You should never be injected with so many steroids in the expansion of 6 months. You're supposed to have one steroid shot a month or a year. If you have plantar fasciitis and you choose to have cortisone shots in your feet, you're allowed to do that at the most once every 3 months, preferred once every 6 months. And this bitch stabbed me with 5 needles, including the one in my ass from the other doctor. I ended up having, and if you include every foot, I ended up having 8 steroid shots in my feet in the expansion of like a couple months. And
Wow.
I'm told that can deteriorate your muscle. I'm told that can actually make things worse. And she did that. Then she operated on both feet at the same time. You're not supposed to do that. It risked blood clot, it risked amputation, and it also risked death. She did both feet at the same time. When you tear a muscle as an athlete or as just a regular person, what do you think? They're going to stitch me back together. That's the dumbed down version for a regular person that's not a doctor. You're going to stitch me up. She released my muscles. And I had no idea. She didn't tell me what she was doing. She didn't tell me what type of surgery. I thought she was going to stitch me up. I keep my feet in hard casts. I'm slowly walking, rehabbing. Everything's good. She surgically released my muscle without consent. And by the time I went through all the different doctors I explained to you earlier, and when I got to the NFL doctors, like the best of the best, not just a sports medicine doctor, but a specific foot injuries, sports injury, badass doctor, and he's like, I can't repair your muscle. I can't stitch it back. I can't undo what she did to you.
Wow.
And I was like, what do I do? And he said, you're young. Fight. Your bones are caving in. There's no spring. Your bones are caving in. He said, if you don't get out of that wheelchair and learn how to walk again, you'll never walk again. And he said that
But you did it.
Yeah. He said if I do not get out of that wheelchair, like my bones risk, like if I try to stand or walk and it gets worse and worse, basically he said I would be in there for a reconstructive surgery of my arch because my bones were like collapsing. And this is the dumbed down version, so don't crucify me, but. And I was like, wow. I didn't know. And this is a surgery that happens. This is a surgery that 60-year-olds get when they just are tired of plantar fasciitis. They have their muscle released. Let's get rid of that inflammation. And it helps them. 50-year-olds. Not a 24-year-old. Not a 24-year-old.
Right.
And
So,
I was literally in such chronic pain, I couldn't stand up in the shower and bathe myself. I was bedridden. And if so again, I'm not a hydroplegic, I'll start shaking and standing up to try to walk to the toilet. And I collapse on myself for 3 years. And then to embrace the fact that maybe like I'm sitting around, it's not getting better. You're told to rest, ice, and you'll get better. It'll slowly go away. It never went away. 6 years and it never went away. And when I taught myself how to walk again, I was in so much pain. When you're told, hey, if you're in pain, quit, you're gonna make it worse. That was my fear. But the doctors kept go, push, you know? And I'm like, I'm in so much pain. Do you guys not understand what's going on? I'm in so much pain. This is awful. When you're in that amount of pain, you're supposed to quit, rest. But I was not getting better by resting. I had to push through. I had to build a tolerance. So it took an entire year of 18 and 19 to build a tolerance. Oh, 19. I go back to work. I build a tolerance. I'm in the gym. I'm at work. COVID hits. And I'm like, so I learned how to walk again and the world ends? What the fuck?
Right.
It was like wrestling got shut down basically. And it's like, I embrace that I'm in pain the rest of my life. I lost the majority of my wheelchair weight. I was getting into shape. And I was like, fuck it. I'll be in pain the rest of my life. I didn't have the words for it. And even now, I'm politically correct with it. But I didn't know I was disabled. Even going into year 4 of the saga, I didn't know I was disabled. I'm like, I just got a boo-boo and it hurts. Even though I was in chronic pain. I was delusional. I didn't accept it. And then during COVID, I was just like, this is insane. So I just got in better shape, lost almost all my wheelchair weight. And then I was like, all right. And it was like it was summer into fall of 2020. It was August of 2021. I was like, okay, I'm going to get medically cleared. So I went to my new foot specialist. So like the 11th doctor. I've been injured for 4 going on 5 years. And I'm like, medically clear me. And she's like, wait, because I just told her the whole story that I told you. And she's like, honey, you're not supposed to be in pain. That's not normal. The amount of pain. Wait, we got to get you an x-ray right now. And then when the x-rays came back and I don't have bone spurs, I don't have any issues, like similar issues like that. She told me, she's like, wait, the doctor did what to you? Wait, you've been going on for how long like this? That's not okay. That's not normal. What the fuck? I needed to schedule you an MRI. And I had insurance at the time. So then, boom, got an MRI like scheduled for the next week. And she's like, she literally had me do a fresh EKG, I think is the name for it. And it's so you got the x-rays for the bones, you got the MRIs for the muscles, and you got EKGs for the nerves. And when I tell you they pull out like something that looks like a chopstick that's like metal, like a metal rod, and they actually jab you with it. I don't know if you've ever had one of those, but they covered me from head to toe, spine to spine, every inch of me, and then they flipped me over and did my front. It was very painful being electrically shocked to test my nerves. And she was worried about the nerve damage in my feet. That's been happening since probably before I even torn my ligaments because of the plantar fasciitis and the swelling. So she ended up doing in 2022. So instead of getting medically released to wrestle and just accepting my life in pain and continuing to get in shape and wrestle, I was told to have these life-changing surgeries that could put me on the road to never being in pain again. So I trusted her. I had my 3rd and 4th foot surgery all throughout last year. Very traumatic, very hard to experience that again, learning how to walk again. Like, it was awful. I was very, very not mentally well. Then returning to work, and I'm like, the pain didn't go away. The surgeries didn't work. I'm still in pain. Like, maybe the surgeries did a little something, but I'm still in pain. Like, I'm still in chronic pain. What the heck? And now I'm going to go back to her, and it's either they have a miracle cure, they figure out what's going on, and I have more surgeries, or I'm just disabled the rest of my life. I need to live off the government, and if I choose to follow wrestling, then do it, but be in chronic pain while I do it. Can't re-injure. Can't re-injure what's not there anymore. Can't re-hurt. I can break my arm in a
So you got
match.
that going for you, which is nice.
Yeah, so that's what people don't understand is I'm in chronic pain, I'm disabled, but I can't re-hurt what I already did. Like I can break my leg tomorrow, but that's not technically what's injured.
Right.
So that's the saga. That's the story. That's me waking up, having an energy drink, and talking about the epic injury that I've experienced, and hopefully I can overcome and inspire people with. I don't know. What else purpose is it for me to suffer every day but to inspire people? Like, there has to be a meaning behind this.
Feel free to tell me to fuck off with this question, because I know it's not appropriate to ask a woman this. But you said you lost your wheelchair weight. How much did you put on in the wheelchair?
So, it's actually very insane, and I've documented it. But with all the steroid shots and then the antidepressants that they put me on and then the nerve pills that they put me on, it made me gain a lot of weight. I put on 100 pounds in the wheelchair.
Wow.
And you would never have guessed it. Like you, my pan up videos, the way I look lean, I look healthy. I put on 100 pounds and you would have thought I put on 30. I hid my weight very well. But then during COVID, once I lost the 100 pounds, because I did lose it, I documented it, had the 100 balloon, and I really was like, yeah, this is it. And then I had to have more surgeries. And within the past year of going through these surgeries, I put on 25 pounds back. But I'm rehabbing now. I'm working out. I'm getting lean and healthy. So this 25 pounds is going to be a big deal. But yeah, I put on a lot of weight in that wheelchair and then I lost it. And it's
Nice.
just like, how cool is that? So training at Rikishi's, it's like, hey, like let me try to lose 20 pounds and get ripped and look healthy and in shape. And couldn't do it. Like worked so hard, couldn't do it. Got put in a wheelchair, put on 100 pounds, and oh God, I can lose 100 pounds.
Right. You
It's
lose
the
100
most
pounds, you could lose
dramatic
25.
bullshit. It's the most dramatic bullshit. Oh, you're a normal kid, not in pain? Can't lose 25 pounds. Oh, I get put in a wheelchair, I'm in chronic pain, let me lose 100. It's
Right.
fucking bullshit. I'm so dramatic.
So before I ask you this next question, I'm just going to say that later in the year, I'm going to put you up and contact them because they email me every year to get me in PWI 500, even though I've never wrestled a day in my life. But I'm going to recommend you as a nominee for Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Inspirational Wrestler of the Year in their
Oh,
year-end
that's
issue.
so cool. Thank you. Yeah, that's so cool. I appreciate that.
Because as you said, you wanted to inspire people, and I'm absolutely inspired by this in this conversation.
Thanks. Like, I'm tired and rambling, but thank you for appreciating what I'm trying to say because it's so unfair and I'm not trying to have a pity party, but I'm going to take my story and I'm going to tell people, little boys, little girls, kids, middle-aged people that are like, "Hey, is it too late to become a wrestler?" No, you can.
Yeah.
Like, I want my story out there not for an ego boost, but for a hey, if I'm in pain the rest of my life, at least someone could be inspired. Like, what if a kid's like suicidal out there and they think their disability means that they can't wrestle? No, honey, you can wrestle. Doctors approve, go for it. Shoot for the stars. Like, the saying always is shoot for the moon. And it's okay if you overshoot because you'll land in the stars. Like, that's all I have to give to the community. Even though I am a heel in wrestling, even though the Chainsaw Queen and the Black Dahlia is a bad guy, me to my core, I hope to inspire people with my story of determination and never giving up because
I've been thinking a lot throughout this conversation about Kenny Omega, and recently he took a Tiger Driver and looked like he landed on his neck. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I think I saw something on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, but and a lot of the fans on the internet were saying things like, he's got to be careful because that could end his career and quality of life, and nobody wants that. But seeing what you're going through, just getting yourself back to that shape is insanely inspiring.
Thanks. Yeah. Like honestly, sacrificing everything to live out of a suitcase. I thought that was my story. I
Right.
thought the
Which is a
most,
good story in and of itself.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, if God or whatever is out there, I've had enough. Like, I don't need any more inspiration over here. I think we're good. I think we got
Right.
like 10 books now. I think we're good, honey. We might have a movie series now, okay? Like, fuck. Like, God, something has to give. Like, my family despises my weightlifting. My family would rather me be have 100 pounds on me in a wheelchair that never go to the gym again, never wrestle again, and it serves me right. Like, and it's like, dude, I don't do drugs. I don't drink alcohol. I was never a bad kid. It's just because you didn't want this for me. So yeah, I thought my story was enough when I lived out of a suitcase and had all my belongings thrown in the dumpster. I thought my story was training under these legends and getting an audition. I thought my story was the worst part that would shock everyone is me shitting in a cup, having to use wet wipes and crying because I'm shitting in a McDonald's cup. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be at WrestleMania one day talking about that cup story. Like, I thought that was it. And then,
So just
like,
take a little longer to get there and tell that story.
but then to be put in the wheelchair and then to learn how to put on 100 pounds, and it's like, god damn, and then to lose the 100 pounds and then to document my like journey of fitness, and it I've had enough. Let's get to the point now. Like, okay, let's get to the wrestling, let's get to the fun part.
Right. So I have one more serious question, and then we'll get into some fun stuff.
Okay.
So typically, when you post on social media, you're posting like photos from the gym and some, a little racier photos of yourself. Uh, last week on your Instagram at Black Dahlia 47, you posted a pretty lengthy story regarding some of those mental health struggles, largely centered around social media, and this was brought on by someone who said some pretty shitty things to you. It's kind of a nice change because it allowed people a little bit of a glimpse into the person and not necessarily the character.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That's one of the first times I've ever exposed my shoot stuff, because a lot of people will see the picture perfect Dahlia. She's like a millionaire. She's perfect, and she's evil. And all my social medias are for the Black Dahlia, but I'm still human under the gimmick. I'm human. I'm flawed. My photos are beautiful, and I know I am beautiful, but I'm flawed. I'm not perfect
Who
emotionally.
isn't?
Yeah, and trolls are going to troll, and if you choose to be on social media, let alone if you choose to try to be a public figure, like I'm trying to be, you garner attention, and it's unfortunately there's bad people in this world, and some people are just keyboard warriors, and I try to keep it as professional as possible on my page as just the Dahlia, but then sometimes you see my personal life seep through if I post a photo of one of my dogs, or you see my personal life when I choose to share my story of my injury. Me being in chronic pain is so intimate. Me being in chronic pain is so personal. And if I choose to share that part of my life, of my body with you, it's an intimate connection I'm trying to have with the community, and for it to get shit on or undermined, like that's crossing the line. Like when it comes to trolls, if someone wants to body shame me or um attack me verbally about, oh, you're not out there wrestling, you're not a wrestler, it's like, fuck you, I'm a wrestler. Are you fucking kidding me? You have a WWE Hall of Famer tell you that you're a wrestler and then get back with me. It's just like, I deal with trolls like anyone else online every day. I ignore them. But when you cross the line and talk about my disability and undermine it and act like, oh, you just got injured, I might not have the politically correct terminology, but I am actually disabled. And that was what the post was that you were referring to. And mental health is
Right.
very real. Like, if I choose to try to learn how to walk again, and they get thrown in my face that they're people that are hydroplegics or whatever, or like the people are actually paralyzed and can't get out of the wheelchair. And it's like, yeah, that's horrible. What does that have to do with me? Well, they're worse off, so you can't call yourself that. How dare you? There's different levels. There's people that are disabled off of mental health. There's people that are living off the government because they're suicidal. And that's valid and awful, and that's fine. But to, like, I actually, it dumbfounds me the audacity of some people. And all it boils down to is inferior complex. Like, I can speak my whole truth, and it makes people uncomfortable. And it's like, why does that make you uncomfortable? And people will be like, what are you talking about? Why is it that I'm in chronic pain the rest of my life and it makes you uncomfortable? It's because I'm outworking you. And it's inferior complexes. And it's like, it's not a dick measuring contest. You don't have to feel inferior to me. I am a victim, and I'm choosing to try and inspire people with it. No, I'm not the worst of the worst, but also there's people that have it far better than me that are living off the government, and good for them. I make people uncomfortable because they couldn't do it. They can't grasp that I'm in chronic pain, but I wake up every day and go to work. They can't grasp that because they wouldn't do it. And that's okay. If you are in pain, and if it's far less than my pain, and you choose not to go to work, I would never judge you for that. Everyone's pain's valid. No one deserves to be in pain. But to imply that I just got a boo-boo, I just got a scratch, and then insult wrestling and call it the fake shit. Oh yeah, that fake shit. You just got injured. What are you talking about? Athletes get injured all the time. 6 years of chronic pain, 24/7, never letting up. I'm in pain right now talking to you. Right now I'm in pain, and I'm sitting my ass down and I'm in pain. How dare you? You don't know me. And what you're talking about, this guy that attacked me, that was crossing the line, because if I have to fight every single day to stay alive, because that's what it does. When you're in chronic pain 24/7, you're like, you want to escape. And like almost every single day I battle, like, I shouldn't be alive. And that's very real. And for someone to just say, oh, you got a boo-boo in a wrestling match, and I know people that have had their legs amputated, how fucking dare you?
Yeah.
Like, yes, there are people far worse, but I have night terrors every single day for 6 years about being an amputee. That's a trigger and trauma. I love scary movies, but if it involves anything to do with a bone popping out of the leg or someone getting their leg sawed off, I can't stomach it. It fucks with me. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that just came out on Netflix, I watched it, and this guy got his knees caved in by Leatherface, and that fucked with me. One of my passions and one of my favorite genres, let alone one of my favorite movies. And I was like, I had to look away. So to have a troll online imply that I'm just injured, and when it rains, the arthritis hits in. Fuck you. That's not what kind of pain I'm in. Right. Like, I should realistically be in that wheelchair still. But I was like, I'm young. I don't want to have more foot surgeries to build up my bones. I'm just going to get out. I chose to get out of the wheelchair, but it wasn't easy. And the reality that people don't understand, they think I'm just young, I'm healthy, I'm getting in the gym, I'm going to be like, everything's good. It's not good. I'm in pain. And even though I can't re-injure myself, there's a good possibility that by the time I'm in my 40s, I'm back in a wheelchair. Right. That's my reality. I have a shot at trying to wrestle throughout my 30s. And then I might be back in the wheelchair because of the pain. It depends. And when I'm back in that wheelchair, I want to say that I gave it my all. And that's why I stood up.
Yep, that was really nice to see. And that's certainly, like I said, it was nice to see, for lack of a better term, the real you there.
Yeah. People need to see real. Social media is fake. Social media is fake. You just see a smiling photo, and then behind the scenes, someone's battling an eating disorder. You'll see a smiling video and you think everything's good, and in reality I attempted suicide that day. You know, it's that is the reality, and you just have to try to manifest positivity. Treat yourself nice, talk to yourself kindly, and that's what I try to do. I try to be kind to myself, be gentle. My body's been through so much. She deserves a pat on the back. I am a badass. I got out of that wheelchair. I work an honest living every day. I and it's okay if I choose when I go back to my doctor this year, if I'm like, hey, this is a lot of pain, I need to live off the government. Even if I choose that, I'm still badass. I'm not quitting. Um,
I don't think many people would go through what you've gone through to get to where you are,
I,
and not
yeah,
taking that opportunity of giving it.
I just have to. I'm young still. I'm literally 31 years old, and I have such an incredible story. I just have to live out all my 30s into 40s and really try, and then it would make sense. Then my story would be like, that's my story and people are hearing it. And maybe when I'm dead and gone after living a long life, people will bring up my story to inspire the next generation and be like, she never quit. And so, not saying people need to suffer. It's not that old school saying. Like, just because I slept out of my vehicle to train as a wrestler doesn't mean you have to. It's I had no option. School was so expensive. I had enough money for food, gas, and then wrestling school. I literally
Right.
have video footage online of me using pennies trying to scrape together just to get a McDonald's key so I can refill and have something to put in my body. There's video footage of me working at my shoot job, which goes nameless right now, but they had expired protein bars and candy bars in a drawer that they were going to throw away because they're expired, and that's what I ate. So I had energy to go and wrestle. So I'm not saying everyone needs to suffer like I did, but stop bitching, you know? Like yes, it could always be worse, but that what's stopping you from, chasing your dreams? Nothing should stop you.
I often say that there's three people in the world that inspire me. Now there's four.
Oh God, don't say that. I'm not
So,
worthy. I'm not worthy of like a title of that. If that's what you're implying.
well, tough shit because you got it. Um,
Oh, thank you.
I promise that we get into some fun questions now.
Yeah,
Um,
ask me some fun questions.
uh, what is something that those in your inner circle, which presumably is mostly Nate over there,
Yeah.
would be surprised to learn about you?
Like something that they don't know already about me?
Yes.
Dude, like, you don't understand. I'm gonna sound like such a freak now. God damn it. God, why do you have to expose me? I am such an open person. Like, okay, so I'm an introvert. Like, as in when I'm in social gatherings, like I am not the center of attention. I try to hide and shrink into my shell. Like in my regular life, I literally am head to toe covered up. I wear long sleeve black jackets where you don't see anything but my neck, my face, and my hands, and then my whole body is covered up. You've seen my pan ups. Like I literally hide my body when I'm in public. I strap down my breasts. I normally don't wear a regular bra. I wear a sports bra, and I try to be the smallest person in the room, just so no one tries to attack me. I guess my trauma, whatever. So I hide myself in public, and with that being said, as an introvert, the few people that know me really really well, which is probably just Nathaniel, and then my best friend Tina. You'll see her going on my journeys with me. She's actually training as a manager right now, so she's gonna be involved with me when I debut. Um, but these two people that truly, truly know me, I'm so extroverted when they're in my circle. I keep my circle small. So they know, so moral of the story is they know everything about me, and this is where you're exposing me, and I feel like I have to be honest here. Like, literally, I have IBS and no gallbladder, so I have weird bowel movements. And the reason I say you're exposing me right now, I already talked about pooping in a cup, and now I'm about to talk about pooping again, so it sounds like I have a fetish. So no, I don't have any poop fetish, just for the record, all right? But I swear to fucking God. But I send, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I was constipated. And then I sent Nate photos. I'm like, is this normal? Do I need to go to the hospital? I sent him toilet photos. I'm like, am I going to die? And so when you ask, what do they not know about you, my inner circle, they fucking get poop photos. They know everything. Like, when I'm on my period, we're all on our fucking period, all right? Like, it's literally personal.
Except Nathaniel.
Oh yeah, Nathaniel has his own period. Like whenever I break my diet and I'm like having chocolate chip pancakes, he will eat them too out of pity. He's like, I'm on my period too. Fuck it. So there's no secrets. Like I'm a Pisces, so I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm an overgiver. I'm always over satisfying people and over being kind, because it's not. I don't do kind things and hold it over people's head like some narcissistic abusive parents used to do, but I do kind things because that's like me getting off. Like me giving a gift, that's like me receiving a gift. I'm not programmed like other people. Like gift giving is like euphoria for me.
Right.
So I'm an oversharer, overgiver to my personal circle. So I'm sorry, there's no hot tea. Nate got a poop photo the other day.
All right. Um, as an actor, is there anything you've done that we would have seen?
So I've been the extra in a couple Netflix films, but you got to think, growing up as an actor, and there's different photos, and I look super skinny, like dealing with my eating disorder. But even as skinny as I was, I still had my hourglass. And you got to think, this is 2008, 9, 10, 11. As a teenager, becoming a young adult, and then 12, 13, 14, 15, even pursuing acting as I was a valet and wrestling. My hourglass wasn't the hot topic. You had to be Paris Hilton, stick heroin skinny.
Right.
And my body type was always more sexualized, and I was always typecasted as that girl instead of the girl next door. And it was unfortunate because I had Disney princess goggles on. I was very, very innocent and very kind. I used to pretend to be Snow White. Like I thought I was a really, really Disney princess good person, and to be told that my body type doesn't fit that personality, it was really shattering. And to be typecasted in low budget indie films, I would show up, and this is gonna sound like I have an ego, but I live a weird life. I would show up for auditions and they'd immediately give me the part without even reading the script. And then I'd be typecasted as that girl. And I would turn them down. So my acting resume, a lot of theater, but a lot of film I refused to do growing up. And then I've been dealing with my foot injury for 6 years. So I was too young to want to be typecasted as that. And then now I've been too injured. Because actually last year I was casted in 2 low budget movies. I was supposed to be the main character in this film being filmed in Arizona. And then I was supposed to be this other, that's not. I was a side character in the Arizona movie. And then this other movie I was supposed to be the main character, and there was going to be filmed in Georgia. Both, because of my surgeries, the first movie got canceled in Arizona, and the guy is amazing. He's I believe you had him on here, I think. Like, no, it's the next podcast that I'm scheduled for another podcast next week, and they had my friend from Arizona on it, so I was thinking you were the one. Sorry. So last year I was casted in 2 films, and coming back from my injury and stuff, and it's like, okay, let's do this. The one in Georgia got canceled. The one in Arizona was canceled because of my unexpected 2 surgeries. So now this year I'm casted in a movie, and it's supposed to be filming next month. So
I have that. I'll get to that in a second. There, though.
Yeah.
So, like in those movies that you turned down, and you said they looked at you and gave you the part. Those were like probably like the type where, like in the credits, it would be like hot girl number 3 or something like that. Is like that kind of thing.
You got to think, you're talking to a grown-ass 31-year-old woman right now. When I was 18, I was still a virgin, and I was like a snooty theater actor. I was I was brought up in a community where I think you get the picture of my upbringing. It was
Right.
like sports, conservative, and wear a purity ring. Forcefully wear a
Right.
purity ring. I wore a purity ring for way too long and it's fucking disgusting. And being brought up like that and then getting involved, like getting offered these roles, I thought it was trashy actually. I had that gross mentality, which I don't have anymore, but I was like, I want serious roles.
Right.
Nothing that's not Oscar. If it's not Oscar worthy, I turn it down. Like literally, I didn't mean to be that way as a 19-year-old, but I was that way. I was like, so you're gonna fly me in, pay for everything. I like hotel, everything. I just have to wear lingerie in this one scene. How dare you? But I was 18, 19. Like, so all these roles that were thrown at me, I was like, I'm not the hot girl. I'm just a 19-year-old kid. Like, I'm not, I'm, what? Like, so I didn't have the confidence to be the hot girl, but then also I didn't want to be the hot girl, if that makes
Right.
sense. So I
Yep.
just wanted,
Perfectly.
yeah. So that's what I was dealing with. And then now I'm a grown ass woman getting over this traumatic injury, getting in the best shape of my life. And it's like, yeah, I am the fucking hot girl.
So you mentioned that you're about to start filming another movie, which earlier this year was announced you'd be joining the cast of Wrestle Massacre 2, which is
Yes.
a wrestling themed horror film, which is perfect for you because, as you said, you love horror films and
Yes.
you love wrestling. That film actually you can donate on Indiegogo at indiegogo.com/projects/crackcoon dash and WrestleMassacre dash 2. Crackcoon spelled CRACKCOON. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that came about, and what you're expecting out of it?
Yeah, the director just reached out.
No?
And this is going to be my August is going to be a lot of debuts. I'm going to be debuting back on filming, and then I'm also going to be debuting back into the world of professional wrestling. So what I'm most excited about is the wrestling part, actually. So I'm not going to be medically cleared to full-time wrestle, and because of my mental health, because of the abuse, like you guys got to understand, why don't you just like make appearances in ballet? My mental health never allowed me to. Like during the 6 year injury, I had people from other countries wanting to bring me in and wrestle. During these 6 year injuries, I've had people names reach out to me and wanting me to ballet them on the indies and make good money. I've had all these offers and I've turned them down because I'm just like, I'm scared for my life. I don't know what's going on with my feet. Like, I don't want to be out there and not be my best. And then when I was putting on the weight in the wheelchair, it's like I can't even walk or stand right now. And then having the excess weight and being in so much pain to walk, people don't understand. The reason I didn't take bookings is because if you asked me to stand up and go grocery shopping for like 30 minutes, I would have been projectile vomiting and screaming. So yeah, let me go into wrestling, a wrestling locker room. The last time I was in a locker room, I tore my ligaments. Yeah, that's not a good setup. And I've been dealing with that for 6 years. And then that messed with my mental health, turning down these bookings, turning down these movie roles, turning down all this because what I was dealing with. Like it's messed with me so badly. It's bad enough I can't do it, but then to be offered, it's like kind of like being on a diet and someone's holding chocolate cake in front of you and you're salivating at the idea of eating that chocolate cake, but you can't yet. And
Right.
so now that I'm accepting, I figured the best thing I can do is slowly start migrating back. And the best way to do it is not to wrestle tomorrow. The best way to do it is not to valet tomorrow. The best way to do it is, okay, I'll make appearances. I'll start doing podcast again. Because I started doing that during COVID in 2020 and 2021. I thought I was going to be getting back into wrestling, and I started doing podcasts. And then eventually I was going to do appearances. And then after appearances, balleting and wrestling. So this is what you're experiencing now in 2023. I'm doing podcasts again. And in August, I'm going to be in New York City doing
I have all the details. I'm sorry. I have all the details right in front of me for
Perfect.
that.
I'm horrible with names, so
So,
please.
so again, you seem to have my questions because anytime you bring something up, I'm about to ask you that question.
Uh,
So, yeah, you have two appearances coming up in August. First
yeah.
is on August 19th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern at the Wrestling Universe, which is located at 19907 34th Avenue in Flushing, New York. There you have a price for your appearance of $15 for a photo, $15 for an autograph, or $20 for a combo. And the very next that day, you're going to be at Wrestle Bash 2 at the Doubletree Fairfield in Fairfield, New Jersey from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I was just going to ask you, since these are your first steps to getting back in front of people on the road, how did they come together?
How did I get the opportunity?
I'm guessing just the promoters called you, much like the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, just different people reached out through social media. And the same company asked last year, and I had to turn it down. And I got replaced by, I think she's on AEW. She really pretty. I think she's holding a title. I don't keep up with I don't keep up with the wrestling right now because my mental health, like, if I'm not, like, you guys got to understand my mental health is, I went from not being a fan of wrestling to falling in love with wrestling to committing and being a serious performer and wrestler to being handicapped the rest of my life. So
I'd imagine it would make you somewhat fragile on occasion.
it depends on the mental health that day, and it could be triggering. Like seeing a match, hearing a match could be triggering. If I'm having a bad foot day, if just working at my shoot job was so hard, I'm vomiting. A troll online is saying, "Well, you're not disabled because you're not an amputee. You got out of that wheelchair, and people would kill to get out of that wheelchair and can't." And it's like, okay, I don't want to hear wrestling today. Like it's something like that. Like it's just different triggers. But this company asked for me to make an appearance last year in New York, and I had to turn it down because of the surgeries I was going through.
This
And
ad, by the way, this ad for these appearances, that's how I found you.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. So are you up there? Where are you located?
No, I'm in Virginia. I just like saw it on social media.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going to get back in the gym. I'm going to get tone. I'm going to start making appearances. I'm going to start rolling around in the wrestling ring and get in ring shape. And then I'm going to wrestle. So you're seeing the slow movements once again. And I'm excited about making the appearance. I'm still trying to finagle the movie schedule with my shoot job. I'm still trying to figure that out, and hopefully everything works out. Um, it hasn't been officially announced, but I guess I can say it. Nathaniel is going to be the lead as the killer in wrestling, in the
Okay.
wrestling movie. Yeah. So
Cool.
Nathaniel got the part, and um, the guy's super nice, but we're trying to work out our shoot schedule to actually film for the 2 weeks and when he's going to bring us in. So it's kind of at the same time as when I'm in New York, and then I have my shoot job. So trying to figure out the movie. Hopefully we're able to commit and do it. And then as for the New York thing, just meeting the fans, getting to interact with people that know of my story, or meeting people for the first time and they have no idea who I am because I'm a fucking nobody. I am a nobody, so I would be surprised if one person shows up for me, but
Well, and I'll also say too. I don't know how someone gets scheduled for this, but every Thanksgiving weekend in North Carolina they do the WrestleCade convention weekend, and they have there's like signings and things like that. All week. I actually go to this event every year. And on it's like on Friday, there's some people that are there. Saturday is the big signing, big meet and greet day where it's like 3 rooms like full of people,
yeah.
indie people, current people, legends, and then on Sunday there's a section where they do like sort of the up and comer,
Oh, cool.
mostly ladies because they do an all ladies show that day. But I know I personally would love to see you at that this year if something were
Oh, cool.
able to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, send me if you know the booker or promoter, send me the link and maybe I can like because that's going to be in November. I definitely would love to show up, be at a
Oh,
convention,
sure.
sign autograph.
I don't like know him that well, but I do know his email, so I'll get that to you.
Cool, thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, so definitely looking forward to seeing you get back together in front of people.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you'd like to say to your fans here?
Well, guys, if you're still watching or if you're a fan of mine, I just know that I really appreciate the positivity and the love because there's so much hatred out there. There's so much negativity out there. And being in chronic pain, it's hard to keep going. So your positive messages and your kindness towards me inspires me to keep going. But then also the negative comments inspire me to keep going too.
It was almost more inspiring sometimes.
Sometimes, like people don't understand. It's like when you shoulder bump me and you leave a hateful comment, or when you pretend to know me and leave anonymous messages on YouTube or on Facebook or wherever you guys leave anonymous messages, you're just a pussy because you're not showing yourself and you're hiding behind an anonymous message. But to pretend to know me and try to tear me down when I'm actually the victim dumbfounds me. And I want the people that are mean to me and want to see me fail, I just want them to know that their hatred motivates me more than a positive message. Your hatred intrigues me, and it's like, bet against me. Like that TikTok says, bet against me because I really, really enjoy it's like fuel to me, fuel to the fire. It's like, I'm in chronic pain the rest of my life. I've had multiple surgeries and probably going to have multiple more. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair again in the next 10 years probably. And you want to see me fail? How dare you? I'm
You're a success story
yeah.
already, so
It's like you really are that bad of a person. Okay, well, thank you. I
yeah.
thank you for watching.
I just got back on Twitter after like 5 years because I had to like step away because of I was nothing on the level that you're getting, but it was just like you're wasting your time just to be nasty.
No, just like if you had a bad day, just you had a bad day, go take a cold shower. Like to try to make other people miserable and try to bring other people down and try to use someone else as a punching bag. It's like fuck this person, and then you're going to be so mean and aggressive towards that person. That doesn't make your life any less miserable. It doesn't make your life doesn't change after that. It's like, what did you gain by bullying a handicapped person online? Because I'm working a full-time job, like like because I'm trying to become the professional wrestler I deserve to be. Like why? Because I'm doing it? Like that doesn't do anything in your personal life. My success does not affect you. My chronic pain does not affect you. So
Right.
thanks for motivating me, haters, whatever.
And if you do want to get a hold of Black Dahlia, send her an email at dahlia_bookings at hotmail.com. You can find her she has a Facebook fan page just under Black Dahlia. On Twitter, it's at Black_Dahlia47. On Instagram, it's at Black Dahlia47. On TikTok, it's at Black_Dahlia47. Subscribe to her OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/Black Dahlia47. And lastly, go check out her Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/wrestler-t-shirts/Black Dahlia. Did I get everything?
Yes, well done, man. You're so professional. Normally, people do not plug me at all, and then normally people expect me to just have all this information just to give them immediately, and that's really professional. Thank you. Thank you so much for the shout out. Thank you so much for bringing me on and letting me tell my long and dramatic story that I'm sure there's going to be more twists and turns, so stay tuned.
Yep, and also go and see her videos, as she mentioned earlier, on Nate Cross on YouTube.
Nate Cross on YouTube and new stuff, Nate Hewitt on YouTube. And a lot of our videos are on TikTok, and I've documented my entire story. So everything I just summarized in this podcast, you see the actual photos and videos all throughout my Instagram and now slowly TikTok. You guys, there's so much more that's about to go down, and I can't wait to share it with you.
Yep. So definitely keep up on that, because if you don't, you're missing out. Black Dahlia, I want to thank you for coming on the show and helping me re-kick it off in style.
Heck yeah, man. I'll come on anytime. I really appreciate you.
All right. And we'll talk to everyone next time.
Bye, guys.